Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here. Your afternoon update, a look at the tropics here, what's going on with 97L, 98L. We'll look at the morning guidance that has now rendered, at least some of it, not all of it. We don't have all day. So again, a look at the current situation, what we know now, and then what we think we know using numerical weather prediction going forward, what you need to be thinking and doing, at least from my opinion, and that's about it. All right, so this will be fairly quick compared to yesterday. Again, trying to change the thumbnail and just make it more interesting. That's actually last night's 0Z run ensemble plot from the Weather Nerds site. And let's see how this compares to what we're seeing today. We don't have any ensemble runs from the Euro just yet as I'm putting this video together, but we'll check out the European operational and see if it has any resemblance here of what we saw in the 0Z guidance last night. All right, does that make sense? Maybe. So first of all, the yellow X there, that's 97L, now up to 70% chance for possible development here. The wave is moving quickly westward and significant development is unlikely while it moves through the eastern and central Caribbean. But after that time, the wave is forecast to slow down and a tropical depression will likely form late this week. I mean, their words, will likely form. So you folks over here, Jamaica, maybe the Caymans, though I doubt it. I think this is going to slide far enough south, but the northern end of the wave could bring some showers and thunderstorms, maybe some gusty winds, so keep an eye on that. Here's Invest Area 98L, and this got bumped up to 80% probability of becoming a tropical depression or stronger over the next 48 hours, which I found interesting considering that the model guidance, as I'm going to show you, is just like waffles, man. It's waffling back and forth. It's annoying. You know, we want consistency. This is what they look like on the 5-day outlook, and you know what? It's not going to be long. They were going to add another system out here. And still, it's only August the 18th. We have a long ways to go just this month. All right, so what does it look like from the satellite perspective? Again, very impressed by the coding power of Levi Cowan to put this together for us at tropicaltidbits.com. Very easily, very easy to navigate what I want to show. And a lot of people utilize this, so I just want to give credit where credit is due. Here's our hurricane in the Pacific that begins with the letter G. That's all I'm going to say. The fight over whether it's Genevieve, I don't even, whatever. It's a hurricane. And look at that core right there, that central dense overcast. Some of the outer edges of it trying to get over Mexico. I covered this in the morning update. Still no direct major impacts for Mexico, and that includes the Baja. Still some high surfable waves. Just be careful. I've never surfed. I wouldn't know how to even start, but you all should know what you're doing. We'll certainly keep an eye on this, and I'll talk about it more in tomorrow's update in the morning. Here's Invest Area 97L, and this is the large envelope of energy associated with 98. And I'm going to tell you what, if this can bundle, that's the key here. If this will bundle together, then it'll be a formidable hurricane more than likely. But it's a matter of when does it bundle, if it ever does. It could stay loosely organized, and all of this energy makes its way over through the islands, bringing rain and squalls and, rather unpleasant weather overall. You need the fresh water, but yeah, it could get kind of squally. But the difference between that and a full-fledged hurricane, well, obviously, that makes a big difference, and it's all going to come down to whether or not this energy right here, this is all of it, can get itself together. Like Genevieve, should have just called it the G storm or the G hurricane. That's what it looks like when it bundles, like I showed you earlier today. And even 97L right here, we'll draw 97 in there, looks a little bit more rounded in its appearance. And this is still kind of disheveled and spread out. So that's the key. That's what we're going to be looking for. A couple of interesting areas here in the Gulf of Mexico. You never know this time of year. That's sitting over 30 plus Celsius water temperatures in the upper 80s Fahrenheit. Although I don't really see much in the way of any indications that things are going to develop. Very little convection in the Gulf But it's interesting that the vorticity, the energy is there showing up on this product here from the University of Wisconsin. All right? All right, so Invest 98. Let's look at this satellite loop, courtesy of the weathernerds.org site, weathernerds.org right there. And definitely seeing this seems, I mean, come on. I think that's the dominant area. But then you say, well, what about that? Because this tries to also look like it's the dominant area. And you cannot have two dominant areas, or the whole thing just falters, you know, and it doesn't work out. This is all embedded down in what's called the monsoon trough, the intertropical convergence zone. This is like a nursery for tropical cyclones to get going, an incubator, as it were, over very warm water. Humidity values on the increase over here. Now it's just a matter of which one of these areas of vorticity, and we can see that in the cloud shot here, turning motion, which one takes over, or do any of them take over? Maybe none of them do. And if I had to wager, man, this one seems to be favored. It's got that good inflow coming in from the intertropical convergence zone, another band over here to the north, seemingly focusing the energy right in here. But boy, the case could be made for this one too. You know, wow. That's going to be tough. Going back and looking at the vorticity signature, I think these are the two lobes of energy that we're talking about. I don't think it's so much with this piece over here. And again, this is what we do. We can play detective and try to kind of figure it out. Trying to see if I can speed this up a little bit more. You can really see, yeah, there you go, the broad turning overall, and it's just a matter of which one of these can seal the deal and get going. That's Invest Area 98. Now, here's 97 moving through the Eastern Caribbean, and this area typically very hostile. I mean, look at what's happening. You see that little thing right there, this little string of clouds? That is an outflow boundary, and that is significant because it shows me that there's air moving away from those thunderstorms. The thunderstorms built, they collapsed, and that's cooler, rain-cooled air moving out in front like a snowplow would do, and that is not good for development because you need air coming together in 360 degrees around a common low-pressure area, which might be right in here. There is some broad turning in here. Definitely we can see it on the vorticity signature. Again, this is a great tool because there's the center of vorticity just north of the coast of South America there, and we can try to pinpoint that on the satellite picture. Yeah, it's sitting right in here, fairly low latitude. So let's see if this gains latitude, if it slows down, and what it does. From there, the water temperatures in here only increase. The upper ocean heat content increases the farther west that this travels with time. So you folks in Jamaica, the Yucatan, Belize, etc., keep an eye on this as it heads your way. You never know. These systems where the models are like, yeah, no, you know, it's tough because we want answers and we want them now. Well, sometimes we don't get it. So we just have to stay vigilant and watch it often. Don't get too obsessed with it, but watch it often. All right, real quick, with the G hurricane here in the Pacific, again, no direct impact to the Baja in terms of a landfall. The way this big, super big area of high pressure is, deep layer high out over the Midwest. Slow down, Mark. Out over the Intermountain West, the Great Basin, that area, Nevada, Arizona, and vicinity, Utah. Basically, it's anchored like that. This just can't plow into that. This air is denser, big dome of high pressure. This is low pressure, so it kind of goes around it, saying, oh, detour, can't go that way. But maybe, I'm hopeful, if the mean of this, maybe the average track can be something like that. Again, if we can pull some moisture up into this area, that would be nice, something to keep an eye on for sure. All right, so now let's look at 97L. And this is just some of the track guidance. Not much here going on right now. Some of these are the beta and advection models. This is the AVN, that pink line right there. That's the GFS. So not a lot of modeling here overall. There's just not a lot being run because there's not much of a feature down there just yet. So let's look at the intensity. What does the intensity plot look like? Well, again, a general trend overall towards modest intensification. This is land interaction, that fall off right there. But the SHIPS model, Statistical Hurricane Intensity Prediction Scheme, does bring this to hurricane strength, meaning that statistically, a very simple statistical based model that is showing us that there's generally favorable conditions. So that's definitely something we want to keep an eye on going forward. And then what about 98? So this has more models being run because it's, I guess, a more trackable feature. And you notice the trend now is generally west-northwest, with the envelope going right through the Northeast Caribbean, very close to Puerto Rico, the Greater Antilles. We'll see how all this works out. But you get an idea here. This is what we talk about. This is your okay, what do I need to know? Well, you can see the envelope of possibilities does take it towards some population areas. And at the very least, let's go back to the satellite imagery, this one. If just that big mass of clouds gets dumped right there, well, that's rough enough, okay, right? Squally, heavy rain, lightning and thunder from time to time, gusty winds could knock your small craft about. That's what we got to understand. What are the impacts? That's what I want you to ask yourself. Not, do I need to get ready for a hurricane? You should be asking, what do I expect from impacts overall? And then we can go from there. Is it a hurricane? Yes or no? It's like a flow chart. Right now it's not, but generally the model guidance suggesting this heads into the vicinity of the Northeast Caribbean. And as such, we got to watch it, okay? I mean, obviously. Intensity guidance is fairly bullish overall, gradual, and then a more quick ramp up. So, but then the other models like the global here, that's the GFS basically. This is the HMON, which replaced the GFDL. There is a little bit of divergence there, certainly out at the longer time frames, but the overall guidance envelope here generally favors strengthening if, as I said, it can bundle. All right? So bring me back on just for a minute. So now what we're going to do, let's compare two of these global models, the GFS, the Global Forecast System, and the Euro, both at the 850 millibar level of the atmosphere. That's about 5,000 feet up. That's my favorite layer to see how these things are going. And I've said this before, it doesn't mean that that's how the National Hurricane Center experts do it. I have no idea, honestly. I know a lot of them personally, but I don't know what they use. I mean, part of that is I don't want to be biased and try to borrow from their techniques, and so I've never really asked. Usually I share my data with them, and we don't get into the nuts and bolts of how they forecast. You can read that in the cyclone discussions. That's the way I look at it. So over the past 20 years, I have learned about different ways that I track what's going on. And this field right here, that low-level vorticity field, 5,000 feet in the atmosphere, 850 millibars, that's a layer of the atmosphere, meteorologically speaking. Let's track these entities from real time, or the real world. That's a snapshot from a satellite right there. This is the model's interpretation of it, the numerical weather prediction, as it's called, NWP, right? So there's 97, there's the G hurricane, right? And here's 98. And you notice this is the GFS, just so you know, all right? So we'll look at it first. And this is the 12Z run today, meaning it was initialized at 12 Zulu time or 8 a.m. Eastern. So we move this out, and let's just go through the next 5 days and kind of see what happens. There's 48 hours. Do you notice any of those areas that I highlighted really coming together? Well, at 96 hours, the answer would be, yeah, okay. Over here in the Northwest Caribbean, 97 starts to take shape. There's 98 over St. John and St. Thomas and Vieques. Okay, and it's not that strong, but this is what I mean. There will be impacts. And then, just for kicks and giggles, are you serious? That giant envelope of energy coming off Africa? Holy cow. And it's still only August 22nd. If you don't think we're going into the Greek alphabet, place your bets now. And we saw it coming. So anyway, let's go on. I got distracted. That's 96. We go out to 120. And, okay, so 98 seems to get tangled up over the Greater Antilles, and it might be lights out for that. That's a lot of energy to just die away. And before we dismiss that, and I'm going to zoom in here to just get you a better perspective, let me make it very clear that even though at this time frame, 120 hours out, this is just a mess over, the vorticity is all strung out, and you look at that and you go, not a hurricane, who cares, next. I vehemently disagree with that assertion. And you know where I'm going with this if you follow this kind of stuff like I do. That represents energy and vorticity over mountainous terrain of a part of the world that cannot handle tremendous amounts of flooding. Haiti, the western side there of Hispaniola, the country of Haiti. Okay, so eastern Cuba, the whole area. So this represents, look at all that energy down there. That's what I'm talking about. This whole fixation on if it's a hurricane, I'm in. If it's not, I don't care. I'm going to change that one person at a time, if it's the last thing I do. So we got to keep this in mind. If it's a little further north, it could be a well-defined storm. We shall see. This is 5 days out. And again, that's all I'm looking at is the next 5 days. All right, so this ends up 97 here. I will put a 97 there. Over the Yucatan, looks fairly decent in the vorticity field. So, okay, we got something to watch. How about the Euro? All right, so we go back out to the wide shot. There's 98L right there. There's 97. Here's the G hurricane. Still, are we ever going to have one like Bob that there's no... like somebody asked me on YouTube, how are you going to pronounce N-A-N-A? That's Nana. But it couldn't, with my luck, it's probably going to be like Nanya. With a little N tilde, like El Nino. Anyway, the G hurricane over there in the Pacific, yes, that's hilarious. All right, so there's 98, there's 97. The Euro only lets us see every day right here. Thinking about seriously upgrading some stuff, especially since my Patreon has improved significantly, and using some of the weathermodels.com products that are more evenly spaced out, the subscription level stuff, and showing you some of that. I got to look at it and make sure I can do that, which I think I can. But anyway, right now, from Tropical Tidbits, the public stuff, every 24 hours. So here's the initial, 24 hours out, and that's what I'm talking about. 2 areas of vorticity, not bundled. This is just like, oh, whatever. Not much to it. 48 hours out, same kind of thing. 97L over here, really not doing too much. This is all disheveled. And this is a big change from yesterday. All right, this is 72 hours out. And again, not much with these systems. What did it look like exactly a day ago? Well, there was a well-defined tropical storm northeast of the islands. 97 is still the same. So, yeah, just 24 hours later, look at what happens. And that is a nice feature, by the way, that Levi baked into this awesome site that he has created. So going on out to 96 hours, most of the energy, at least in this run, is north of the islands, the Greater Antilles. 97 looks nothing like what the GFS has. And then there's another system trying to develop off of the coast of Africa. Finally at day 5. Yep, and if we just compare this to yesterday at day 5, that's a pretty big difference. And it's like, well, what the heck? What changed? Well, we don't have time to get into the nuts and bolts of that. That gets very complicated. Probably different shear, dry air, who knows? There's a lot of factors involved. So you got to think to yourself, all right, the models are waffling. We don't have consistency. What do I do? Not much. Just keep an eye on it. First up, for 98L anyway, is the islands, the Lesser Antilles. St. John, St. Bartolome, Antigua, etc. Okay? Even Puerto Rico. Keep your eyes on it. Be ready. Even if it's just heavy rain, gusty winds, that can cause problems. You know that. How big I am on promoting the impacts. From there, we're just going to have to wait and see. I think we can look at this and say, all right, it's getting towards the latter third of August. The season naturally starts to ramp up. And we know that last year, the models didn't really do much with Dorian, and then it took off, and look what happened with that. It became a historic hurricane. It's a very similar setup overall to 2017 with the water temperatures, the atmospheric profile. We've heard all of this. So I would tend to believe that these systems are going to eventually develop stronger than what we're seeing today. And while the waffling in the models is frustrating, there's nothing we can do about it. Ensemble prediction, where you look at the whole picture of all the different ensemble members that have different variables that give you different output, that's helpful too. And we'll look at what the ensembles say. I'm sure you'll see that on social media. And we'll go from there, right? So for now, it's wait and see. Still no clear-cut answers. Unfortunately, let's get the title card back. And we'll see if this still comes to pass. What the 12Z ensemble members look like. Does it look like that? Do less members develop 98? What happens to 97? The GFF stronger with 97 than the Euro is. And you got the Canadian and the Icon, and just like, oh my gosh, the UK Met. So if you're watching this video, you're doing the right thing. You're staying on top of it, and we'll just see what happens, right? Tomorrow will be another day, and we'll see what the guidance shows us overnight. I really can't put it any more direct. Sometimes we just don't know. But at least we're all taking the right steps and keeping abreast of the situation. All right, so tomorrow we'll have two updates, one fairly early in the morning, and then another one mid to late afternoon tomorrow. All right, we'll keep doing this format as long as I can. And for now, as things start to ramp up, I think that won't be a problem. Don't forget, I'm on Twitter. That's that @HurricaneTrack down there. And, of course, on YouTube, subscribe to get notifications and all the stuff that people say about YouTube. And, yes, I am uploading these to Facebook as often as I can. One day I hope to be able to literally have an intern or even a paid intern or a full-time social media person. Just got to get that Patreon support up, and we can start creating a staff here. And, yes, the Patreon crowdfunding is how we do this. Check that out. The link is in the description of our video updates. As always, thanks for tuning in and giving me a piece of your day to hopefully educate you. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. I'll chat with you some more tomorrow morning.